Hi, today you've joined us for a session at Castle Ashby Fisheries in Northampton, and today I'm sat on one of the three lakes here. This is Brickyard Lake. This is one of my favourite fisheries, really. I've been fishing here for a long time now. Usually my fishing time's limited to the months from October to December. I fish the winter league here. So it's quite pleasant that I'm actually sat here in spring, summer conditions really. Usually it's a bit colder. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk you through how I would fish really what would be match conditions on Brickyard Lake. It's a bit different really from what most things nowadays are all based around commercial fisheries, but Castle Ashby is a bit more of a natural venue. Old estate lakes, which has been sort of stocked with carp over the years, but still has a really good base of silverfish and lots of bream, some tench. We've already caught a bream today, and I've lost a tench as well. There's some crusions in here, and they're really old fish. They've been fished for a long time, and they've been seen everything, and it's also heavily sort of pleasure fished as well. So even though there's a lot of fish here, they're not easy to catch. It's quite tricky fishing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I do through a session that will hopefully catch me a few extra fish and some of the big resident bream in here, and maybe the odd carp. Right, you've joined us for now 2 hours, nearly 2 hours into the session. It has been quite difficult. I've caught one bream so far. I'm currently fishing shorter with 2 lines at the moment. This is my 13-metre line. I'll talk you through how I've actually fed it in a minute. I'm just going to get this fish in, I think. So going back to the fishing, I've started off and I've caught some small fish very quickly, a lot of perch, odd roach. As I say, I've had one bream about 2.5 pounds, and I've hooked a tench and lost it. And then rushes down there, much to Richie's amusement. I'm just going to play this fish. I think this might either be a crusion or even a... Hopefully it is. Yeah, it's a crusion, look. Oh, that was lucky. Hopefully we'll catch a few more of these as days go on. Lovely little crewy. So just going back to how I've actually fished today, I've picked 2 lines in my peg, nice and simple. So I've started on a 13-metre line, and I've also fed a 16-metre line, both at the same angle. I've got a nice bit of cover to fish to in the background, so my water's a nice dark water, so I can fish an orange tip there. So it's nice simple. I haven't had to black out any of my floats, and they're in the same line as well. So I've started on my 13-metre line, and I've fed just a small rich ball of fish meal ground bait with plenty of particles in there. I've put some chopped worm in there, some dead maggots, some casters, some 2mm fish meal pellets that'll break down in that mix anyway. And I've just popped in one small ball at the start, and then I've kicked off on that line with a little kinder pot on the end of my pole, and just topping up a little ball in that every little put in. And I've started on fishing a little bit of worm. Little red worm has been a good bait. Slightly over depth, but I'll show you that and I'll talk you through my rigs. And I expected to catch some small fish on there straight away, which I have done. After about an hour I've had a bream, and I've lost a tench, and then I foul hooked a fish. It's gone a bit funny, but I expected that today. You know, these fish are quite hard to catch, the water's quite clear, so I do think this line will get better and better. On the 16-metre line, I've put in a really positive base of feed, so I've gone in with just fish meal ground bait. I'll talk you through the mix a bit later on exactly what I've used, and I've put in 4 or 5 balls of this just with some dead maggots in there and odd little bits of worm. And I've fed that 16 metres, which is really as long as you can fish on here, and I'm going to use a really positive rig over the top of that and fish big baits over that, like a whole dendrobina worm, 3 or 4 dead maggots. But that's for later on in the session. I'm just going to keep an eye on that, see some odd fish blow in, hopefully, and then go in on there and catch a few bream on that in the last hour. Brickyard pond, as a rule, has always been a bit like that. Your peg does seem to get stronger, and in matches, fish do tend to be caught on that long line later on, going into the last hour. As I say, the fish are tricky here, and it takes them a long while to feel confident over those beds of feed, so you can catch them within pole range. Right, we've now had 2 more crusions, and I've now got some fish feeding really confidently in the peg. Got a small skimmer on here. Now fishing a bigger bait, fishing a whole red worm, just with a tip nicked off. Wind's got up a little bit, so I've decided to start using my spray bar now. About £2. So yeah, I've now put my spray bar on and I'm using that. So what I'm trying to do now is, now these fish are in my peg and they're right on the spot and they're feeding, I can actually see some fish blowing actually where I'm emptying my kinder. So I'm using my bump bar to good effect. I'm lowering my rig right on top of where I'm emptying the kinder, and I'm sat holding it static, and I'm gnawing any tiny little movements on the float. I'm waiting for a positive pull under before I strike. I can actually see now they're actually fizzing on my bait, so I'm going to get out there and try and get another one. Right, I'm just going to talk you through the rig that I'm using on the 13 metre line first. We'll start at the hook, using a Gamakatsu black in a size 18. Nice wide gape, so you can use it for different types of bait. You can use it for a worm head, full worm, dead maggots. I've got that onto a 20 centimetre hook link, and then I've got 2 number 9 droppers. I don't like to fish too many droppers, so I'm using 2, nice and simple. Number 9's quite big, but it gives a decent register on my float bristle, which I'll show you a bit further. And it obviously shows me little indications and positive bites, you know, that bigger weight there near the hook. I try and fish that near to the hook as possible as well. I don't like to fish it too far away. Then I've just got a simple bulk of number 9s there. Diameter of lines, I'm fishing an 010 Gamakatsu G line for my hook link, and then on my rig line it's a Daiwa TDR. It's actually 014. That might seem quite big diameter, but obviously I can, you know, use various different hook links. If I have problems with carp, I can go up and fish an 014 and a bigger hook, so that's why I use that. Float choice, nice and simple, just a KC chimp, hollow bristle, and that is a 4x16. Above that, which is quite important, I've got 2 back shot. Because it's quite windy conditions and I've got my pole sat in a roost, I can hold everything dead still. 1 back shot is actually sunk, so that's sinking my bristle. The second back shot, which is another 6 inches to 8 inches further up, I'm holding my line stable above that, so it keeps my rig nice and steady out there. Quite a short line, probably, I don't know, 20 inches up to my elastic connector, and then obviously my kinder pot on top, which I'm using for feeding. That short line there's just tightening everything up out on that 13 metre line, so I'm feeding exactly right where I want on top of my, well, literally at 13 metres, and then I'm dropping my rig right on top of that. So hopefully, as that's falling down the bottom, everything is dead accurate. It's giving me more chance of a bite and catching a fish. We're not we're not fishing for a huge weight here or a big amount of fish. We're fishing for 1 or 2 big fish at a time. And hopefully, by tightening all these areas down, these key elements of your rig, you're getting those fish on that spot, and you're getting your bite a lot quicker. I think the fish in here, I think if you put a big bed of bait, those fish are going to shy away from that. So I like to go down the route of putting a nice rich ball in and then kindering over the top. As I say, fishing really accurate and fishing for 1 or 2 fish. So what I'm looking for is, you know, any signs of liners, small movements on the float tip, little dinks. Obviously I'm ignoring all of these, I'm not striking into these, but what I'm building up is I'm reading that how my peg is building up, so I know that there's fish there. So I might even be sat for long periods quite inactive, but you know, I'm still plugging away, still feeding a bit of bait, and I'm keeping all them nice little particles going through my top up mix. So I'm keep on adding them little 2mm pellets, some nicely diced up fresh chopped worms, plenty of casters and a few dead maggots, and then underneath all of that selecting my hook baits differently all the time. So the last 2 fish I've had of a bream and a crucian have come onto a full dendrobina. I've had other fish on a small bit of red worm and a few on dead maggots, and I've kept on changing that all the time. I can see now that there's fish actually blowing in my peg, indicating that there's fish there. So even though it's been a tough day, I've kept on plugging away and kept on working at it, because I know that this particular lake, Brickyard, can fish like this, in the next 2 or 3 put-ins I can catch, you know, 2 or 3 more bream, you know, big fish up to like £3 a piece. So, you know, I'm not giving up. What has been disappointing has been my long line at 16 metres. I've fed twice on there throughout the session, big volumes of ground bait and with some dead maggots in it, and I've had an odd indication over that all day. I've not had a fish over that, so that just proves that going down this route of fishing shorter and feeding frequently all the time has definitely been the best option today. As you can see, I've caught a few today. It's been a very difficult session, but thoroughly enjoyable. I've kept on working at it all the way through. I've caught 3 or 4 bream. I've had 5 big crucians, a load of other fish to go with it. I've probably ended up with about £20, but really rewarding. And as I say, it's been a difficult day, but well worth it. Cheers.